Welcome to the Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Donnie show. This is the West Coast edition. We had a little issue in this last feed here, so we kind of just started a new one. Tonight we're going to be having Sal Milazzo from the SSA. Sal was one of the original guys who started the SSA back in 2011, so I think we're going to get a lot of good intake from him. Hopefully he's going to be able to figure out how to join the feed. I know Donnie, as we just had, I know Donnie's going to be joining us here shortly. He is on his way home from basically I guess, 9 o'clock game over in the Harrison Park League. So we had a little on the road with Donnie Rollins, which was kind of intense. So we're in the hunt for being hopefully in the top 5 for picks next year in the NFL. I think the Packers will be one of the worst teams by the year end. I think Jordan Love is not the real deal. So either way, Mr. Phil Agilia, welcome, Phil. How are you? Donnie, there you are, buddy.
I'm inside now.
You're inside now. Nice.
It was kind of fun driving and doing a stream.
Yeah, it was. It was on the road with Donnie Rollins. I was just letting everyone know.
I was nervous, honestly.
I know you had mentioned previously that Brandon and some of the guys were rocking some balls off the wall off you, huh?
Yeah. We don't need to talk about that much, but yeah, they did hit the ball okay.
Trying to give these guys some confidence.
Yeah, that's it. Going into into the end of the fall season, get their hopes up for the next season. Lay it in there. Go ahead, hit it, have fun.
Right. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to try to add Sal right now. Okay.
Sal, go ahead and hit that button in the bottom left that looks like the little icon of a guy. PJ actually gave me a little heads up on that. PJ Rains.
Yeah. So he has an Android phone. So I don't know. When he joins, it doesn't allow us to add him. I think he has to basically
get an iPhone.
Well, and he has to go into settings, and I think he's got to allow Facebook permission to go live. I think that's something that those Androids have to do as well. So, because I see everyone else, we could bring the video, which is pretty, intense in regards to who we can bring to video and who we can't. I know my buddy Chuck is watching, so if Sal is unable to join, maybe we can bring Chuck on.
We can
Chuck is ready.
We can get Gersano too. He's a frequent watcher of the show. He mentioned that he's a free agent now, so he wants to come on and give his piece to what team he should play for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in his ear the last week, telling him he doesn't have a choice, and then basically play with his uncle.
You can. Don't say play with his uncle like that, Jim. People will take that the wrong way.
That's okay. That's okay.
Let's if Sal can't get on, we might have to get Robbie. He'll talk to you. He'll say what you want him to say.
Yeah, I bet he would. So before we even do that, let's give Sal a couple minutes.
Yeah. 100%. Let's see if Sal can just hit that little icon, Sal, on the bottom left. It looks like there's a guy inside a picture of another guy. Yeah. And then it's like the request to join the live, and then Jimmy will get that notification.
He says he can see us on his computer. I don't know if the computer, like I said before, will allow him to join. It has to do with the approval, but also on his phone, he should be able to join on his phone, but I think he said he was having problems. Yeah. So, I did send the invite to him.
Yeah.
So as we wait for him, in the meantime, let's see if Robbie's still out there and see if we can bring Robbie to the.
Robbie, hit that little icon for us. Jump on until that actually might be entertaining if Robbie and Sal are on the stream, but we don't want to put Sal underneath that pressure.
No, if Sal joins, we can have Robbie hop off. Yeah, we'll just boot him off. So yeah. I just sent the invite to Gersano, so hopefully we'll see if he accepts.
Oh boy. He's been asking me to come on. He has been. I promise. He's been asking me to come on the show.
I bet he has. I mean, with the most popular show in softball, why wouldn't you want to come on?
I agree.
That's okay.
Second.
But we're not here for that. So let's talk a little bit about. I know I put a post out either yesterday or the day before. I'm gonna be running overnight tournaments on Fridays in the softball dome. So the first 8-team invite will be November 10th. It's going to be $175 entry fee. I'm gonna obviously it's going to pay, first and second place in the tournament. There's only going to be 8 teams. It's going to start at 7 o'clock. We're going to have a overnight, type style tournament. Hopefully we can end by 3 a.m. is my goal on a Friday. I wouldn't like to keep people out there much later than that, but we're going to have 7 games. We'll do one-on-one count. We'll probably start at 7, go, and then go to the end. My plan is, and here's, I believe, Robbie joining us now.
Oh boy!
There he is. Oh my God, dude! Look at that hair, Donnie.
Put that.
No, I gotta cover
There you
that
go.
up.
Put the hat back on, my man.
You see what hat it is, though, Jimmy.
I see it. Best team.
Back up a little bit. You're too close.
Best team in Iowa.
There you go. Better.
Best team in Iowa and Melrose. I see. I love it. So
Yeah, maybe we'll win a tournament one time.
that's fine. We won enough in our younger days. Now it's about having fun, and of course we're gonna go there to win. I mean, if you would have got a hit last year, we would have won. You were Sean Bird.
I mean, yeah. Or if the guy before us got to third base, we could have won the game, I guess.
That's true too. Yeah.
What are you guys talking about? Donnie getting rocked
No,
earlier?
we didn't mention that much until you came on.
He was just trying to get all his bad out before he joined Signatures.
Exactly. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
a fun fact about that, since Donnie's joined Signature, he's pitched 3 games, and he's lost all 3 of them.
Oh.
Nope. False. I'm 1-3. I pitched 4 games.
I must not have been at the game that he won.
You were not at the game.
So Donnie, what he's trying to tell me is you had really bad defense.
I mean, I can only do so much,
Today,
Robbie's on the defense. He's kicking
I
balls
mean,
around.
he had me at short center, so that's not a good help for Donnie.
Awesome. Well,
I gotta play him too.
hey Rob, if Sal does join, because obviously we set this time for him, I'll just drop you off and we can add you back on afterwards. It's just that I know Sal's in Nashville right now. It looks like he's figured it out, and there he is.
Oh, boy.
So I don't know if you want. So there he is. I think he figured it out.
Get this guy out of here. Hurry up. Kick him.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the rumor mill anyway.
The rumor mill is going to be good.
Rumor mill. I have a lot of stuff for the rumor mill tonight, so it should be entertaining. But Robbie, we'll join you as soon as we're done with Sal. 10 shot, buddy.
Yeah.
Robbie.
So, Mr. Sal Milazzo, how are you, sir?
Good. How about you?
I'm happy you figured it out. What was wrong?
I didn't have live. I didn't allow live on my phone, only on my laptop.
See, there you go. So
Here.
I figured it was something along those lines.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about. So tonight we want to talk a little bit about the SSA. Donnie and I want to get into kind of why the SSA was started, just to give some history on what it was and why we brought SSA to the table for some of those viewers or some of those younger players that might not know. A lot of the players that we have in the game now that are younger, they probably didn't even know there was an ASA originally. So, and then why the SSA started. So we want to ask you some questions around that, but I'm just going to hand the floor over to you. Why don't you give us a little background on the SSA and how it was created, and then Donnie and I have about a list of questions we'd like to ask you as well.
Simple stuff.
All right. The SSA actually started forming in around 2005. There were some issues with softball at the time. It seemed like younger teams were breaking up every year. They couldn't afford to play softball. There were qualifiers, but to get a bid, you had to keep playing in qualifiers. Now the major teams played in those qualifiers. They would get a bid the first qualifier and they wouldn't have to play the rest of the year.
Right.
Then the next week, another major team would win, and these A teams were playing in every qualifier, trying to get enough points, trying to survive, and it was costing them an arm and a leg. They couldn't get the sponsors, and players were getting frustrated. Waiting till the very end after playing in 10 tournaments and their coach telling them, You got to play in another qualifier. You got to play in another qualifier. The cost was just too much, and players were leaving and going to the major teams.
Right.
Major teams were cleaning up, and it was frustrating. It started in 2005, and by 2011, it had just been too much, and that's when the SSA started. And our goal was really to protect the A class.
Sure.
And I think we started with that intention: protect the A class, make sure that the A teams are staying together, are growing together, and I think we've accomplished a lot more. But I think that's been. I mean, look at our A tournament.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think from that perspective, I think it has definitely created, a B national, an A national, an A no glove, a lot of things that weren't present in the past, which I think has helped softball. Some of those younger teams don't have to go up against as we call them, the gorillas or the top teams in softball. So 100%, I believe that has created more younger teams, not only to stay together, but also more teams at those levels than now participating in tournaments, which I think is a huge plus to the game. And I know Paul Rowan last week and Ancona even agreed too. SSA has done a tremendous job of growing the game from the B level, A level, and above, right? So, kudos to you guys on that. I think that's a huge, huge win.
Yeah. Definitely one of the biggest events of the year last year was that A Glove National. So many teams, a great facility too to kind of host that tournament at. Where do you see, I guess, improvement over last year or over the last couple of years? What's one aspect you think we can all improve on?
Well, I think what needs to change, and what we're starting to see right now, is a disrespect for our umpires and fellow players.
Yeah.
Listen, I take the field and I hate the other team while I play the game. It's just the way I was brought up.
Sure.
Afterwards, you can have a beer, you could joke around and all that stuff, but during the game, you want to win. But that doesn't mean you can disrespect our umpires. We complain about umpires not being good. Who wants to ump? For $30-40, would you want to ump and get yelled at all game? Getting questioned is one thing.
Got a point, yeah.
But having 7 guys come run at you, yelling and calling you names, that's got to change, guys.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with our game right now. It's a game. It's a recreational sport. And we got people disrespecting. Listen, I'll argue with umpires. You know that. Jimmy, Donnie, I can do that. But I don't disrespect them. I don't call them names. And I make sure that my players, we have a problem with coaches. A coach doesn't control his players. They're running all over the place, screaming, making threats at umpires, and that's wrong.
Right.
If you're a coach, you got one job, well, 2 jobs. You make the lineup, and you stand up for your team. But your team doesn't have to charge an umpire, doesn't have to get in an altercation, doesn't have to make comments. That's why the coach is there.
Yeah.
Let the coach do that.
And I agree with you, and I think a lot of times, and you know this too, and when you're in like a heat of the battle game, you're playing another top team, or you're playing a competitor that you really don't want to lose to, and there's a terrible call against you. Obviously, your emotions can get the best of you. We all understand that. We get that. The one thing I don't understand, though, about umpires is why they continue to talk back, right? Because that's something that I think, and I'm not going to sit there because I agree with you, Sal. Donnie and I have actually talked about this on previous shows, actually the show before Nationals, and then we had an umpire push a player. But I agree. I think it was a situation where we need to stop arguing with umpires as much as we do, because to your point, who the hell is going to want to ump for $45, right? We've talked about that, and I yell at them. We all yell at them. I get it, but what's this end all be all with that, right? I mean, because I think even your former players, like, that probably don't want to ump for $45. Like, how do you create an umpiring type bench per se to ump major softball? I mean, there's like not ASA, but like in some of the leagues and things that you do in sports, there's a bench of where you start umpiring. You start umpiring at the B level, then you move to
Yeah.
the A level, then you move to the majors. How do we do that for umpires? Because I feel like it's just basically whoever wants to do it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Who's
you're
ever
going to go ump
available. Yeah.
you're going to go ump the two best teams in softball, and you're going to hear it from ear to ear every time you make a questionable call. So, tell me, Sal, what's your plans on that? Because I know the SSA too at major nationals, they use a two umpiring system, and agree or not, I don't know why they do it. It would cut costs tremendously if they use one umpire, and two bad umpires is not really, is probably not as good as one bad umpire, if I per se. I'm just curious to see your opinion on that.
Well, I think you have to bring back the respect. It used to be an honor to be an umpire.
Right.
Umpires used to be respected. So I remember Jimmy McDaniel. He was a big guy, umpire, black gentleman out of Mount Prospect. And he would run out there and he'd make the call. And if you turned around and you said, Jimmy, I was safe, he'd look at you and he'd say, Sal, you might have made I may have missed that one, but that's the way I saw it. How do you argue with a guy who's hustling, who's standing out there?
Yeah, right.
We have a lot of umpires that don't hustle, and that opens the door to players complaining.
Right.
But again, Ed, to your point, umpires need to not talk back, go back, say, okay, I've heard enough. Next time I have to let you go. I have to, your night's over.
Yeah.
I think that warning, the comments and the sly comments are the ones that are causing problems with players.
Yeah.
If you made me swing, I didn't make you swing at that. Maybe you should have swung at the pitch before. When umpires make comments like that,
Right.
or, oh, it's my fault because you flew out. That's the stuff that antagonizes players. I think it's a twofold problem.
Yep.
Umpires need to do their job, and players need to respect the fact that this guy's out there trying to make a living. He's not racist. He's not biased. He doesn't like one team over another. Listen, on a bang call, and I've had to ump in Steve Heinel's tournaments. It's not an easy job.
No.
It really isn't. And we make it out like, oh, you should have seen that. He's in a different angle. He's at a different place. I've seen umpires cost games because they got in the way of a throw. It's not their fault. They're not trying to get in the way of the throw.
Right. So you think by just improving respect in the umpires, you think it's going to improve the game of softball? Is that kind of like your point of how we should improve it? Donnie?
I think a lot of players are disenchanted with the game when they come out and they see free-for-alls with stuff like that. And it's happening more often than ever. And I know the SSA is trying to curb it. They're trying to change that.
No, I think what Coach is saying is that if more players respected the umpires, there would be more incentive to become an umpire, right?
Yeah, I like that, Coach. I think what Coach is saying.
Yeah. I was hoping to pick up on that.
I'm gonna talk. Over the course of the years, I've always told my team, let the coaches argue the calls. You don't argue them.
Right.
And I'll get pissed if a player gets involved in an argument because he shouldn't. But I'll tell you one story where we were playing a game, and there was a pop-up on the infield with nobody out, and we had a couple base runners on. And the umpire called infield fly. And our player was running out to make the catch. And our players looked at me like, Sal, what? Do you see what he just did? So I went up to the umpire and I said, "What? How did you make that call?" And he said, "Sal, he was running backwards to get the ball." I said, he was set to make the catch, and I said he was running backwards, and he said, "I saw it as an easy play." And I went back to my bench, and my guys looked at me and said, "Sal, the runners were at second and third, not first and second." So they allowed me to argue the call, even though I didn't know the situation, and neither did the umpire. And I think more coaches need to kind of take that, that motto and just say, "Hey, let me make the arguments for you.
Right.
You just go to the bench. If you have a problem, you talk to me. Don't talk to the umpire. I think that'll go a long way in making the game better.
I can't agree more. I agree. I think it's a win-win for everybody if we can get better umpires just in general and people that want to do it. I mean, there's a lot of former players I think that could probably umpire. I mean, we have current players now umpiring A and B level games, which I think is a win for softball. I know, Robbie and Kurt and guys off the top of my head that they love doing it, and I've heard good feedback on how they ump so far. So, that's a win-win for everybody. So that moves me on to my next question is how do we create more fans in 16-inch softball? I mean, this is something that I know, Sal, you and I talked about offline about creating more of an energy around softball, but kind of give me some ideas of what you thought about how can we bring more people to a championship game at a major level tournament?
I don't know if you can with today's live streaming. One of the great things that has happened over the years is we're streaming games live, so people don't have to sit out at a game. Yeah. I remember being 3 people deep at a Nationals trying to watch a game in the 90s, a championship game. It's not that way anymore. And I'm not sure people care as much about this game as they did back then.
Right.
Remember, and I have a theory on that. And, I'm sorry for taking up so much time, but when I was a kid, we used to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning and we didn't come home till dinner time. And if you had street lights, you were still playing football in the streets or baseball out there.
Yeah.
Kids today are distracted by social media. At recess, we were out playing sports, whether it was baseball or football or whatever.
Right.
Today's world, they got 2 hours of practice and then a game, and then that's it. They don't play the way we used to, and they don't enjoy the camaraderie in the sport the way that we did as kids. So I don't know how that's going to change, Jimmy. We're trying to do different things, but you talked about ending a game on Saturday night. There's a lot of difficulty with that too, including the complex. But it's a great idea, and it's things that we need to talk about, and the ways that we have to bring. There has to be a want to be out there. There has to be a want to see what happened. And I just don't see it these days.
Right. Donnie, what do you think about that, Donnie? Because you're more of the younger kind of generation. Yeah. You're still in your 20s.
Yeah.
What's your thought process with that?
Kind of falls on the younger generation, like Sal said, to kind of want to be out there, right? It's what happened in that championship game without needing to kind of jump on a live stream and watch it. It's what incentivizes the younger generation to go out there and watch. And Jimmy, you raised a good question. How do we get more people there? I know you talked about car shows and beanbag tournaments, extracurricular stuff when your team's out. That kind of stuff gets me excited to go to the tournaments. Coach and I plan on being in a lot of Sundays, so we don't need a problem. We don't have that problem.
Yeah.
We're gonna be out there. We'll be playing, Jim. But for others that aren't as successful,
well, hopefully you don't run into hacks.
We probably will. I don't see an issue.
First round, second round, we'll see it.
Yeah, we'll see it.
You want people excited about the game, right? And Jimmy, to your point, ending on a Saturday, with a large crowd, especially the people behind you right now.
Fans. They just wanted to say what's up.
I am brown nosing Coach Jeff. It's a good atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
To your point though, Donnie, that's my point about the whole Saturday night thing. I just think if we create more of an event, more of a atmosphere for people to hang out, I think people will be more willing to stay at the park. And let's face it, I think the concessions would probably make more money. I think that's part of what we want to create in softball, and I think that's what works now, right? I mean, we see it with some of the other tournaments, and I don't even want to use Papa Hops as an example because everyone knows about that, but there's other tournaments in softball that has a couple hundred people watching, charity tournaments or just regular tournaments that are hanging out in one-day events. To me, I think that's something that we have to consider. I'm not saying we have to change it immediately, but it's something we have to consider. I mean, Sal, you mentioned about bigger parks, more fields. I mean, I agree with you. Nationals, we had 6 fields. They used 2 on Friday night. Now, I know they already had that structured from the year before and things like that, but that is stuff that people notice now, right? People see that. So it's something that I'm waiting for. I know that, Sal, you were part of some of the outside things with the SSA and the text messages and things I was on looking for that meeting. I'm happy to go and represent, just that part of the association to bring that idea to the table. I have no problem doing that. And I think for the most part, based on a survey we did a while back, I got most of the backing from most of those teams, I think, that want to see the very similar situation to give it a shot. I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I don't know, though, if only doing it once is really going to show that it's going to work. I think it might be something that you might have to do multiple times, either over a course of a summer or over a course of a couple of years to really start seeing an impact. And I know I wish Tyler was able to join tonight because I know Tyler's a strong opinion against it. And I appreciate that, but it's something that I don't know how you have a strong opinion against it when we've never tried it, and that's something that I think.
Well, what do you think about Nationals and Forest Park are going to be double elimination tournaments? We know that. But why not take the Midsummer Classic or maybe even TOC, because we always get rain, and make it a one-day single elimination tournament?
Right.
This way it'll end on Saturday night, and maybe the people who are just they know they're not losing their Saturday and Sunday with their families. Right. They'll spend the whole day there.
Well,
and we'll see.
Yeah. And I think we talk a lot about commitment, right? Commitment being down all across softball. That's the way to maybe up commitment, right? Shorten the tournaments. Mm-hmm. And now some of these major teams and even A teams are able to get their players out and become more competitive than what they are now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that some of the too many double elimination tournaments make people miss days on those tournaments.
Yep.
If you know that you've got 3 single elim and Nationals and Forest Park is double elims, and that's your commitment, yep, I think you'll see stronger teams out there on those tournaments.
Yep.
Just and it's really just a theory that hasn't been proven out. We'd have to see.
Yeah, and one of the things I said before too is, like, even if you did do double limb, you still make those first round games single limb. So you're knocking out 8 teams right out of the gate, and that final 6, because that way when those Iowa teams come in, mm-hmm, they automatically get a bye in the 16, and now they're at least playing a double elimination, so they're driving down for two games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we only get usually 1 Iowa team a tournament, except for North South. I think he gets 2. So. Right. I mean, it's not really going to make a difference. I mean, hey, if we go there, they consider us, they give us the benefit of the doubt, and they don't play us on a first round game on an early Friday or whatever. So there's no reason why we can't, reciprocate that and give them a favor by giving them a game in the Sweet 16, which I would call it. And it does make a difference, because now you're losing 8 teams on a Friday. And you could easily, Melrose runs this double elimination 16-team tournament every Saturday in Melrose one day. So, right, there's no reason why you can't do that. And they do that on 2 fields. So, right, I'm just saying, they start at 8 in the morning, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, to your point, Sal, it's less commitment, less days, right? So,
right.
Your thought on that, Donnie? What do you think? You're a younger generation.
I know it's interesting. Like, I'm just a little different. I would rather be out there all weekend, but
yeah,
like for you guys, you have families and kids and stuff, and for me, that Saturday night would be awesome, because the energy would be different. Yeah. You'd have way more people out there, I think, and knowing that you don't need to dedicate, like we, just to kind of harp on something we talked about earlier, the commitment level I think would be higher, just because you've got those guys that miss the Thursday game because you have another chance to play Saturday, or play on that next Friday. I think that single elimination for the first round is important, and then get to the double elimination as you kind of weed some teams out.
Yeah.
And Jeff Batesel said it would be cheaper for the A teams as well, right? Guys that don't want to put a bunch of money into potentially, right, playing all these tournaments and stuff. It's pick the ones you want to be and pick the ones you can be successful in. Because you see teams, I did it last year. We have a tough draw. That's it. right? And then you have a
Yeah.
tough draw in the losers bracket. That's 2 tough games, and you kind of put yourself in a tough spot financially when you're playing tournaments. You've got no chance to to make a difference.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
What
Sal,
about
go ahead, Sal.
what about like some of the themes that we used to have that we don't have anymore? Like Danny's North South used to
Yeah.
be North teams against the South teams,
Right.
and that's not that way. It's just a North South tournament now.
Yeah.
What about taking all the A teams, putting them in one bracket, and put the majors in the other bracket? This way, an A team could get to a championship game. And I'm sorry if a major team gets knocked out in, maybe it's 45's hex playing in the game to get to the championship, and really that's the major championship.
Yeah.
Right.
And an A team has one game to try and win that tournament. I don't know. There are things we could do, and the SSA has tried them. The flip a coin tournament where you could choose gloves or no gloves, and
You must be watching the Dana Strong tournament. That's what Dana Strong does every year. I do a major and an A.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of the guys lie to get in the A side, but that's okay.
I saw that. I saw a certain guy you had on earlier did that, I think.
Yeah,
Him being scandalous? Never.
No.
To his defense, he did have Mickey Balestri playing second base. So I don't know if I love Mickey, but I don't think he's the second baseman at this age.
No, and he's in his trimester too. So there's
right, exactly. So So that being said, there's something that came to my mind, and something that we had when we had Paul Rowan on the show. We mentioned to him, I wanted to ask him why he wasn't at more of the SSA or major events that we run. His response, Sal, and maybe you don't even know about this and maybe don't want to speak to it, I don't know, but I'm going to ask you, is why would he feel like he's not allowed to come out to a SSA event? And that's kind of I'm not saying he said that, but that was saying he made a comment along the lines of if he was welcome. I know he's welcome, but why would he feel that way? Is there something behind that, or as we try to bring softball together, you know what I mean?
The Hall of Fame needs to be an unbiased group of individuals.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case right now. Paul Rowan is an ASA guy. He's always been an ASA guy. He's been part of them. Now, he could say he's not, but he is.
Yeah.
And see, when you turn around and you put out your Hall of Fame dinner and you call some team I've never heard of as national champs, and then you say BTA, who won a real nationals against 45's Hex, Dynasty, Signature, you call them just Park League champs? That's wrong. And it's biased.
Yeah.
And I think that's what causes the animosity.
Right.
I know you guys are trying to bring two associations together. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame needs to be a reporter of all associations. And the ASA needs to clean up their act if they want to bring teams back. Back in the day when I was a kid, the ASA was the association.
Yeah.
And the USSSA was when guys at the end of the year got together and played in their tournament.
Duncan's, right? Les Duncan?
What?
Was that Les Duncan? Yeah, Les Duncan. I remember those tournaments.
Yeah, Les.
Donnie, you weren't even
That's
born
what a lot of teams had after they played for him or played in his tournaments. A lot less.
Right.
But the point is, we keep saying we need two associations. Let me tell you what would happen to the game if we had two associations. Right. You would have some teams playing on some weekends, other teams playing on others.
Right.
Well, Circus is going to play in this association's nationals, and the Hex is going to play in that one, and you don't have a true national champion.
Right.
And whoever won the U-Trip under Les Duncan, they weren't national champions. They could claim it all they want.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is the team that won the ASA was the national champs. And that's the way it is with the SSA right now. Right. Does that mean that the SSA and the ASA have to work against each other? No.
And I think that's our point, right? I think that there's so much heat between the two. I think we need to cut that shit out. And it's just a matter of, like you said, Sal, not play against each other, where if teams go and decide to play in an SSA national, the ASA is not saying shit, or there's not rumors going around that the people are saying, oh, we can't play in the SSA because the ASA this, that, and another. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's what's being said, but I've heard rumors along the lines of, with certain tournaments. So, that's the type of stuff I think that we need to end. And I mean, if the ASA, God bless, like we had him on last week. I know Bob's kind of out of the loop now, but he was one of the main guys back in the day with Tom O'Neill. And, and one of the reasons why the SSA started, really, as we discussed earlier. So,
Right.
to your point, I agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having two. I just think that, we have to work somewhat together where we're not putting events on the same day. I mean, how awesome would it be to have a 64-team tournament like Grant Park used to do? I mean, yeah, I understand we can do that now with the A, the B, and the major. But, dude, you get upsets. You do a single elimination 64-team tournament, you get upsets. That's how Grant Park was. I mean, back in the day, Lettuce and some of those bigger teams didn't always win Grant Park. You know that, Sal.
I do.
So, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do something along those lines again. I think it'd be cool for softball. I really do. I mean, can you imagine,
I think it would be cool, but
maybe
how many weekends can you get guys to play? For the same reason you're saying don't have a double elimination tournament because of commitment.
Yeah.
ASA is running this weekend, SSA next weekend, ASA.
Right.
At some point, there has to be an association that everyone rallies around.
Right.
My problem is that both associations want to be the end all be all. And really, and maybe I'm biased in saying this, there's only one association right now.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
and we have a Hall of Fame that's supporting the one. And that's why when Gio was running against Paul Rowan, the best thing that could have happened was neither one of them get it, because you needed somebody who's neutral.
Right.
But if you're going to have an association in charge of the Hall of Fame, it should be somebody from the association that everybody's playing in. And that didn't happen. And that's what's caused the rift right now. Bobby Ancona, I'm sorry. I like Bob. I respect him. I like him as a person.
Yeah.
But I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
You. Yeah, no, I got you. I wanted to bring that to the table because it was something that caught my mind last week, and I have never heard that out of any of the SSA guys' mouths, that he wasn't welcome at a tournament. So I wanted to bring it up.
Paul has done some things that has alienated the SSA.
Yeah.
And he's alienated some teams that play SSA.
Right.
Like, again, I go right back to some of the things he's done with the Hall of Fame. That bias needs to go away, and it's still there.
Right.
And that's why I'll never support the Hall of Fame based on his actions and some of the things he's done.
Right.
But, I just got a text from somebody in the game who said, are you going to be at the Hall of Fame? There's friends I have that are getting inducted. I won't do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of changes that I think the Hall of Fame could make that would make the Hall of Fame much better.
Right.
But they're pigeonholed into a certain way of thinking, and that's not good. It's not good for the game.
Right. No, I mean,
and just for the record, I've never had a conversation with Paul. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup with 3 women in it.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Right.
I until I saw him on your stream last week, I didn't even know who he was.
Hey, Donnie, what he's trying to say, we got a fan there.
Come on. You know what? This is really broadening people's horizons, Jim.
Yes, it is. It truly is.
And we've never had women on the show.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, I love when he laughs, Sal. It's great.
Yeah.
But honestly, you make great points, right? I mean, it's nothing against Paul Rowan as a human being, but at the same time, like, he needs to be a part of the SSA, and that was my point to him and why I asked him that question is hey, I want to see you more around the major game because, I mean, let's face it, there's not a lot of B players getting in the Hall of Fame. Okay, your major players are the ones usually getting in the Hall of Fame, and go ahead.
The best leaders know how to admit their mistakes
Right.
and say, hey, you know what, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Or, hey, let's mend a bridge here. And that's not happening. And yeah, I'm sure I spit venom about the way the Hall of Fame is doing things.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. The Hall of Fame is great for our game.
Yep.
Let it be run by someone who has good relationships with all associations,
Right.
and that's all. So,
Yep.
and listen, there's things that Paul may feel about things that were done with the SSA. Mend the bridge. You're a leader. You're in charge of the Hall of Fame. Mend the bridge. Don't turn around and feed it, which
Right.
I've seen happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And that's something that we, maybe, hopefully Paul's listening and we can, maybe he can fix that. I mean, it's something that's maybe he's not thought of. I don't know. But hopefully Paul is listening and we can hear his side or get his opinion on what he thinks about that. So that's good stuff right there, Sal. That's really good stuff.
Yeah.
Donnie, I know you had a couple questions. I don't know if you've asked them yet, but
We kind of got through what I was going to ask, just about the state of it and how we kind of grow the game. Jimmy and I, we have a very popular segment, Coach. It's called the Rumor Mill, and a lot of stuff happened in this off season. How excited are we for next season?
is that towards me or Jimmy?
Coach,
I'm very excited.
nice group. Yeah.
Some of the players that we have coming to the team are players that want to win. They're hungry, and they have the talent to really contribute.
right.
So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm expecting that signature will be there in the end.
Yep.
Then again, I'm an eternal optimist, so I think that every year. But we've got a pretty good track record, and I think that some of the younger players that are coming on the team, we're going to be one of the youngest top teams in the game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see how see how it all plays out.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I have two questions for you, Sal, and then I'll let you go. I know you're in Nashville, so enjoy your time. But future plans for your organization, is there anything that you've heard of through the grapevine? I know that, I know you don't, maybe not around as much as you used to be when it first started, but any future plans for the organization that you'd like to see happen over the course of this year or next year?
Well, I think there has to be a little bit more. You talk about excitement for the game.
Yeah.
I talk about respect for umpires.
Yep.
I think we've revolutionized the game with the streaming and stuff that nobody did before that we started doing. I know you guys kind of throw a couple digs at Gio every once in a while, but he's one of the hardest working guys in the game. He's out there streaming.
No, Yep. We respect that.
Gio and I don't always agree on a lot of things. Not on a lot of things, but some things.
Yeah.
And we have our battles. But in the end, I think his heart's in the right place, and he's trying really hard.
Yep.
And I think as a board, we have to come together and come up with better ways for the game to grow.
Right.
And I still think it's protecting the A class. Major teams are going to do well. They're going to have their days. They're going to dominate. A teams need to be protected.
Yeah.
I think some of the ideas you have are important. We should look at some single elimination tournaments, and we need, instead of having 5 or 6 doubles, let's make them the prestigious ones, and let's have some single elims where teams can come out at full strength.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
No, I like it. And you mentioned throwing digs at Gio. Yeah, we do from time to time. But here's the thing about Gio. Like, I always say this about it. There's nobody else in softball that's going to run from field to field to live stream softball games. I mean, honestly, the guy, like you said, is passionate about the game. And he does a great job of what he does on the live stream. I think there's other things that I don't necessarily agree with that Gio says. And just kind of he sticks his business in where it shouldn't be from time to time. And that's a whole nother aspect of how I feel about Gio, and it's not even about the SSA. It's more about like other things and other tournaments and stuff that were said in the past. So, obviously the whole Donnie situation this past year was kind of a joke to me. Just things like that. And I know that there's two sides of the story. We've totally covered that, and I think we're past that now.
Yep.
But just things like that, Sal, that I think sometimes he puts his foot in his mouth a little bit where it shouldn't be, and that kind of pisses people off. And I don't even think he means to do it. I think it's more along the lines of the stubbornness behind it. And I think that's what bothers people. And and since we're being kind of transparent about that, it really is something that bothers. I know it bothers me from time to time of how he thinks.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I dislike the guy. I just sometimes don't agree with what he says, and that's okay because he doesn't always agree with what I say. So that's a good thing. So
I'm not a psychiatrist,
right.
but I believe that a lot of people don't respect the fact that he pays his own way to do all this. He gives up a lot of time to be out there streaming.
100%.
And the SSA doesn't pay. It's a volunteer association. That's how we keep our costs down. And I think it kind of hurt Gio to see that Donnie was working with Forest Park when Gio wasn't allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe you say and think things without thinking through, because Gio gives you an opinion real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's hard for him to back off of that opinion.
Yeah.
And but in the end, his heart's in the right place. He's trying to do the right thing, and he's busting his ass for the game. And sometimes I feel he doesn't feel appreciated.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. And like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think Gio doesn't get all the respect he deserves. And I know people throw the digs at him, and they just don't think through everything behind the scenes.
Well, the thing is that you mentioned, the digs, because Sal, I make fun of you all the time. You know that. And
Sure.
the thing is like, it doesn't mean
I went this whole thing without saying one thing about you. And you still owe me a hug. You still owe me one.
Waiting for it. So.
But the thing is like, it doesn't mean I dislike you just because I throw a dig at you. But at the same time, I think that's what, to your point, that does bother Gio, right? I mean, that does bother him when people think of certain things or say certain things. Like, I always try to say this to the SSA, just because we say one thing doesn't mean we're against the SSA. It's not how it comes. They always think that everyone's against them. And that's a lot of times where I feel, and I get like, well, wait a minute, just because Donnie and I say it one way doesn't mean we're against the SSA.
Here, I'll leave both of you with this.
Perfect. That's what I want to hear.
Hold
on. I got one more question after this. Go ahead.
I'll answer it afterwards.
Go ahead.
But show up to a meeting. Ask for an invite to a meeting and sit down and hash out all the things you want to hash out. The board is made up of your fellow players that you play with all the time, play against.
Yep.
Sit down with them. Tell them what you're thinking.
Yep.
Instead of talking through Gio. And this is why I got mad on that text string, because you're talking to one person. You're not talking to the SSA. Right. Sit down in front of the SSA and hear their feedback. Hear what they have to say. Maybe you'll walk away with a different opinion, or maybe they will. But you got to give it a chance.
And I'm waiting for that meeting. So I know Pat said we were going to wait till after the Co-Ed National is over. So that Co-Ed National is over. And I want you at that meeting too, though, when I'm there.
I'll be at that meeting.
So I always ask every question, or the last question of the interview, I always ask the same thing. And you've kind of touched on it a little bit, right? But if there was one thing in softball you wanted to change, take the umpires out of it. I'm talking about the game of softball. What would it be right now?
Wow. One thing that would change.
This is Jimmy's famous question.
There's nothing wrong with the game of softball right now.
Okay.
I think really it comes down to the commitment from the players. Instead of kissing ass on some of these players that don't show up when you really need them to, stop doing that. Take the players with the commitment, you'll win more. And I think if teams stop catering to the superstars in the game and start putting together teams of players that really want to be there. You're going to see your fans at the end of the in the championship games, and you're going to see a lot more camaraderie in the game. There's a lot of animosity on every team when they cater to their superstars.
Yep.
That's what I would like to see change, and give younger players chances. I don't think there's another team in the game that have brought up more younger players and developed them, and they're playing on every team out there now are players that started at some point with Buckethead's Windy City signature.
Yep. No, I
So,
mean, Sal, you're the first one to say that. That's a great point, right? Commitment. I mean, I love it. I know I love it. Donnie, do you have anything you have to say to Sal? Other than if I hear the word coach again, I'm going to puke.
Nah, I won't say it again, Jim. Say it again.
All right.
thanks, guys.
Coach, thanks.
Sal, really quick before you go, do you have any questions for Donnie and I, or do you want to hear about Donnie's past performances the last 4 nights?
Lights out.
I want to know who Donnie's barber is.
Okay, Donnie.
You know,
Is it quick clips?
I go see who's available. I have been to El Mago's, Joel Alejandro. I've been there before. But yeah, I go see whoever gives the best massage.
All right, that's good.
I like it.
Do you need a barber?
I don't have much to cut, so no, I'm okay.
The gift. This is the gift, my friend.
And Jimmy, why don't you ever use a barber?
Look at that. I just got it cut, my man. I go to Sports Clips.
Yeah.
My girl works over at Sports Clips.
I'm there too.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
Thanks
guys.
very
I
much.
appreciate it.
Sal,
Thank you.
I appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
All right, you got it.
All right.
Bye now.
How was that, Coach?
That was so solid, Jim.
Yeah.
I freaking love that guy.
Oh, I bet you do. Well, that's be a reason why you go and play for Signature. I mean,
Yes, sir.
hopefully
yeah,
you see some PT this year.
He was pretty straightforward, huh? Hey.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, I told you I was going to ask him the question because I felt like Paul Rowan was not disrespected, but he kind of. Did you get that out of his voice too about Paul Rowan and how
he was very sincere about maybe not being welcome, right? And you kind of worked. You put it on a platter for him, and he hit it.
Yeah, no, I mean, but
Angelo said I'm solid. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's just introduce, say hi to some of the people in the chat really quick.
Yeah.
Jeff Beto.
We had Manny Sanchez. Jeff Beto was in there. Kenny Abt, Willie Russ.
Oh, nice.
Joe Austin, Ruvatuso, Big Mick, Balestri, you, Glennie Quinn. Yeah.
This is the point where we have to talk about our page because we haven't mentioned it once. So for those on Facebook, obviously, and YouTube, right, we created a page, the Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Donnie Show, both on YouTube and Facebook. So we're going to try to build not only the subscriber side of YouTube, but also the like and follow side of the Facebook page. So if you haven't already, get on there and do that for us. That'd be awesome. Hey, last I checked, I think we picked up another 20 likes or followers in the last week. So we're averaging about 20 a week. I haven't looked at YouTube. I usually share our videos on there at some point, so that's a cool thing.
Fantastic.
So I guess that leads us into one of our favorite topics of the night, huh?
This will close it out, Jim. It's about midnight here. This is the latest we've been on. This is also, I will say, the most live viewers we've had so far.
This is the West Coast edition of the Uncle Jimmy Cousin Donnie Show.
Yeah, it's pretty
so
good.
That's okay. Next week, though, before we get into Rumorville, next week we have 2 Hall of Famers joining us, Mr. Mark Holstein and Marty Dozen. So
that's awesome. That's big time for us.
So it'll be awesome. So that'll be good to hear from both of them because I believe their speech is a week after the show. So that's pretty cool. So awesome to both of those guys to give us the time. And then I also spoke with Mr. Rich Melman today.
Oh, nice.
So Rich Melman has decided not to do an interview with us. But he said it was out of all due respect. He just said he just hasn't been around the game of softball as much lately. I said I still wanted to pick his brain about the TV league and kind of what he started in the old days. And his comment was, I'll consider it. So he's like, call me when you get back. So So that was pretty cool. So that was really cool of him, and I told him I'd give him a buzz next week. So that was
I'll
awesome.
take that.
But let's hop right into the Rumorville.
Yeah, Travis commenting, what's new, who's going where? Trav, it's time. We're gonna tell you a couple.
We're gonna tell you. So Donnie, do you have any before we get into what we're?
I've got a couple. I've got a couple of good ones.
All right, go right ahead, man. Start it up.
Meatball City picked up 2 more individuals.
Nice.
They picked up John Ryan Doss, so JR, to go, maybe be a rotational guy over there. I know he can pitch a little bit, still hits.
Pitcher. Yeah.
Yep.
Johnny Ryan.
Yep. Johnny Ryan's gonna go over there.
From the Forest Park World Champions or No Glove Champions in 2015. I know Johnny Ryan very well. We were teammates.
Johnny's a good guy. We like him a lot. And then we've got another one to Meatball City. His name is Jack Harrigan, who played a little bit with Circus last year, rotated in the infield. New kid, he plays out of Lions, played with Bushwood last year as well. Just mashes the ball and can play anywhere in the field.
Was that the shortstop that they had it short a little bit?
Yep. He was kind of playing, and him and Timmy were kind of rotating, but Harrigan's a really nice pickup for that Meatball City team. That creates a whole new vibe for that team and can potentially help them, move into one of the better major teams. He's a stud, and he's super young, hasn't been playing a very long.
Well, that's a great pickup then for Meatball.
Yeah.
I do know, and I haven't, Trav, if you could, I haven't heard any movement from BTA or High Y. That's not something I've heard of. I've asked multiple times, but they keep their stuff really secret, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But either way, I haven't heard much from the Chucks, old timers. I don't know how that meeting went, but I heard they were going to talk about combining. The one thing I did hear this week is Jack from the 45s.
Landwehr.
A little bit. Yeah, Landwehr played short center and third base. He's moving over to Dynasty, and the Chicago Dynasty team is going to stay together. So
that's really big. That kid he's a stud.
Yeah.
He unfortunately just kind of moved into the, one of the best infields in softball already. And was kind of a rotational guy, and come tournament time, I was getting hit for a little bit. I know Stacey and him were kind of rotating. Landry would go play defense. Stacey would still swing. He wants to be in the lineup, I would assume. But he's good friends with like Walsh and Kurt out there. So really good place for Landwehr to be successful in that Chicago Dynasty team. That's a really nice pickup for them.
I was, as much as I wanted, and I'll be dead honest, Chris Guerin to play with us. I'm kind of glad that Chicago Dynasty is going to stay together, because they've been kind of a mainstay in the major level for the last 10 years. They haven't been the team they were 5 years ago, the last 3 or 4 years, but they're still a very competitive bunch. Matter of fact, I think they beat Flash at the Glove National this year. They still had competitive. I know they lost Alonji and they lost Iggy in the last 2 years.
Sherwin.
Probably two of their better players. Yeah, and then Sherwin too. So 3 of their better players. But it's nice to hear that they're going to kind of reload a little bit and get right back at it. I think that they still got some nice pieces there. They got Tommy Walsh and Matty Richards.
Yep, Richards is good. Chris
Hickey,
Guerin. You said
Chris Guerin, Hickey, the short center.
Steve Messina.
And then Spaghetti, the pitcher, is one of my, is a good, is a really good dude. So that was a lot of fun and a lot of great, great news that I heard. So that's a good thing.
So Guerin staying then? Guerin staying with those guys?
Chris Guerin is going to be staying with Chicago Dynasty. Yep, from what I heard.
Nice.
Also, another rumor I heard this week was the Brian Davis joining his brother Ricky Davis on Moneyline.
Is that what's going around? I know Ricky confirmed going to Moneyline, joining that. It's a good team. They're going to be really good. And then it'd be nice to see Brian kind of he wants to play with his brother, right?
Yeah, I don't
Makes
blame
sense.
him. I think the one league thing and the tournaments that Moneyline plays. Hey, Moneyline's got a bye next year for Forest Park, so that makes it really attractive.
Yep. Trav said heard Sal picked up a guy from Washington Park. He did. They picked up Greg Fleming from Farrell. So
Greg Fleming.
E5's coming over to play with Signature, athlete, stud. And then I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but Brian Haas, Marco's coming over to play with Signature, and then Alan Mills too from Impact going over to play a little bit with Signature.
Yeah, I don't know. I know we've talked about it in the weeks past with the whole smack out. I believe
Yeah.
they're going to be called oops. I
Yeah.
think that's probably going to be a go now with you guys adding as many players as you had. So, what do you think about who are some of the guys that could see them going after? I mean, obviously Joe, Marco, and Chapo.
Joe,
And then,
Marco, Chapo, CJ. You might know Mike Wittes.
yeah,
I think was
I know Wittes very well. I know Brett. Brett will probably go back there.
Casper.
I'm Johnny Les. So
Yep.
that'll be another team. I think they'll add that Spencer kid probably from. He was
Johnny
on OBI
Pike.
last year.
Yep.
I think he'll end up going there.
Yep.
So I mean that'll be a solid
So
team. I know we've also go ahead.
where do they fall under the A category, or would that be? Do you think CJ would push to be major? Probably not. I would assume that he would want to be A.
I mean, I don't know how many times CJ can win A. I mean, he's won it 3 times, I think. I mean, realistically, on paper, though, to CJ's defense, I think they're probably an A team.
Yeah, a very good A
I,
team.
I think what CJ's going to want to do is probably play some of the A tournaments if he could, and then play a lot of the tournaments in Mount Greenwood with his buddies and a lot of that stuff for the oops because a lot of those guys, I know Johnny Pikes, would be another name that you might throw out there. Some of the old SmackOut guys. So it could be a very close thing to what SmackOut was, minus Julian, Kurt, and some of those guys. But I think CJ would enjoy that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fun. Those guys like to have a good time. I hang out with those guys a lot of times, and they're
good guys.
a great time. Yeah,
Very
CJ's one of my better buddies. So, just outside of the game of softball, just in personal life, I mean, he's one of my better friends. So, you know what I'm saying? I think they would have a blast doing that. So,
anything else on the Hex side from this week?
you know what? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't really talked to Richie this week much, being kind of away. But I do know that the names that we picked up last week, those are confirmed because they've been added to our chat. I know there's a couple other names, as I mentioned, Robbie and some other guys that we're looking to. We're probably looking to add an EH catcher, a guy maybe that can play a position or two, along with being a pitcher, a second pitcher as well. So. It's always good to have 2 pitchers on the squad. You know that. So we definitely want to add that and definitely want to, kind of see what we can grab. So.
Yeah, Robbie was telling us tonight he's thinking it might be a good decision for him.
I told him it would be. He gives us another hitter.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. I not that I make 95% of the games, but there's always a game or two that I miss.
Yep.
And he could step in and pitch, and not only that, but there's also games where I play the field. I mean, I was telling him myself. I mean, last year, I think I played the short center 60% or 65% of our tournament games, except for when we played 45 splash and signature. You know what I mean? So, and then I would pitch those games. So it was definitely there's definitely an opportunity there. So, he's going to get a little more tick than he thinks, and we'll definitely see how that goes. Outside of that, I haven't really heard much. I know that the Jack dude from 45 is going to Dynasty. I thought that was a huge
big.
I hope that's true.
That is true.
I think that's true, and I think it's a done deal.
That is true. That's a really nice pickup for them.
Yeah, and then what else have you heard? Any of the lower level teams? I know Sauce has been all over me about getting in our dome tournament. So
I love that. Those guys want to play. Brian Sloan does such a nice job. He wants those guys to play.
Yeah.
Because Brian likes to play. So the more he get his team in, the more he gets the opportunity to play.
So I think what we're gonna do, Donnie, is on one of our next up and coming shows, we're gonna release the top 8 teams. And then the second 8 teams, because the dome tournament, the first dome tournament I'm going to run is November 10th. It's a Friday night.
Okay.
I'm going to see who can attend. I want to get 8 teams there.
Yep.
Hopefully it's the 8 major teams that I want for the first tournament. And then the second week, November 17th, I'm also going to run a, as I call it, mid-major, A, whatever, the next 8 teams that I feel that I want to be a part of it. So I know that we're still under construction a little bit from the bar perspective, so that won't be open. But the dome itself is up and running and fully running, and we would have the whole facility to ourselves. So
Fantastic.
we'd be able to bring in coolers and beer and stuff like that. No food, of course, no seeds or anything like that, but definitely bring in beer and, we'll just clean up after ourselves. And as I said, I think I'm going to make it 150 or 175 per team. I'm going to pay back probably 60% of the prize money, and then keep the rest either for the facility and then for umpires.
Yeah,
So,
I love it. It's
and,
really cool. I mean, I know there may be a dome this year as well in Rosemont. So
yep. Well, that'll be for the league, right? And I've already been in talks with Sal about that, and I didn't even bring it up tonight. We should have asked him about the dome league. We forgot,
yeah,
but
it's all right.
that'll be something we can touch base on in the future shows. But I know that he was talking about possibly running a dome league, and having some of the games at my location out in or at the GoPro location out in Shorewood. So
We
it should
got a
be.
question, Jim. Q wants to know what suburb your dome is in.
So yeah, so we opened a dome in Shorewood. It's off of 52 in South County Line Road. So my cousin Jason, he basically has a GoPro travel organization, and so he grew it to the point where we were able to open he was able to open a sports dome, and I'm attaching a 7,500 square foot bar to that. So like I said, the dome portion is fully up and running. The bar portion is under construction as we speak. Drew, we're totally biased against Iowa teams. I see your quote there. No Iowa teams will be invited. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Drew,
I
you're more
will.
than welcome.
Drew, you're more than welcome. I even got a hookup for you guys on the hotel, which is right down the street.
Awesome.
Um,
For the
it's
overnight stuff, I think that'll be awesome for
yeah,
them to be at.
yeah. I mean, literally, it's a mile and a half from the dome is where the hotel is. It's not a 5-star hotel, but it's definitely a hotel that you could bring your family. And there's an indoor pool, indoor hot tub. It's just your average, probably 3.5, 4-star hotel. The rooms are clean though. I've stayed there myself. The woman that runs the hotel is fantastic. But like I said, there's a pool, an indoor hot tub, things like that. Everything's indoors, so it's cool. Workout facility for Jake Reynolds. So a lot of stuff like that is good. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely we'll be inviting an Iowa team. Matter of fact, one of the Iowa teams, from what I was told, might be combining. They might be bring one team as a whole, which is great because then we get all the guys, and then we can kind of go from there. We will be playing without gloves, of course,
Yeah.
but it's just something that I want to start. And then, of course, with the Dome League and everything else that runs, I think we're going to start probably in November in the Dome League, I would think. I'd have to get with Sal on that. But that would be a cool way to kick off the winter, just having a couple single elimination tournaments on a Friday night.
Yeah. I'm with it. This is all good stuff. This is very positive for people to hear, right?
Yep.
Because, at the end of last year, I was like, man, this might be the last dome season ever, right? And because we just didn't have the availability for the dome with changes in schedule and change. I think they changed owners even, right? Or changed something like that.
They changed new people, I think.
Yeah.
So that being said, I mean,
we'll
November 10th, I'm going to put out the list of 8 teams. I got to confirm first with those 8 teams, offline before I put that list out. And then at that point, we'll run the tournament. I'm going to be looking probably. I don't know how I'm going to do the umpiring yet. I don't think I'm going to hire. I might just do it either myself or have like other guys Robbie Grisano or Kurt or guys like that are in the game that can ump. It's just because it'll cut costs and you know what I'm saying? Like we don't got to pay those guys $50 a game, things like that. So, matter of fact, I might even ump a game or two myself. Who knows? You might see Donnie Rollins umping the game.
Too soft. Whatever argument, I agree.
But my whole point is to have and I might keep it going. I might even do 17 through 24 and give everyone an opportunity. It doesn't always have to be. But my thought process on this was, and hear me out on this, and we'll end on this because I think it's a good thing to end on. I was thinking about doing the top 8, right, and then in those first round games, the two teams that lose by the most runs will actually move down to the 9 through 16. The two teams that finish first and the two teams that finish first and second through the 9 through 16 would jump to the major.
That's a
Okay.
cool idea.
So, and then that way I feel your more quality A teams will get a shot at playing a major team in a week to week basis. You know, I'm probably going to run this a handful of times over the course of the winter. So I might do 3 different divisions on 3 different single elimination tournaments, right? It just depends on the commitment I get. And I only want rosters, you know what I mean? I don't want, with the exception of Iowa, if they bring a super team, so what? So let it be. But they're driving 3 hours to play, let them be. But everybody else here in Chicago, I want the real rosters. I don't want 45s picking up 5 guys from Flash and coming out there with a loaded team. It's not what I'm looking to do. I want them to play with their normal teams, just as they do in the Dome, but we're not going to be picking up 3 and 4 guys from other rosters to join.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I might just make it where you could pick up one guy. Like if I'm on the 45s,
Yeah.
you could pick up one other guy from a major team that's not playing for that night, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you want to pick up 8 players to play, fine. I'm okay with that. But as long as they're not on the other 8 major teams. And I think it's going to eliminate a lot of that, and I think it'll be cool, you know. So more to come on that, but that's my thought process. What do you think about that?
I love
Donnie?
it. I really like the idea of almost like relegating teams down to the A level and then promoting teams up to play at the major level, because it gives them exposure to playing different levels of competition. I think
Right.
really good for A teams to kind of know where they stand too, right? Going into the season, where do we want to be, where our expectations are at. You play a major team, you get blown out. That happens all the time. And then you play against another A team and you smoke them. So that stuff happens all the time. You got to manage expectations. Everyone's got, high expectations coming into the year.
Yep.
And it's all about, oh man, we got smoked by these guys last time. Let's try something different.
And I think like that's the whole point of the major, right? You have the top 8 major, and then
exactly.
what I would do is the 2 teams that lose by the worst amount
Great
of
idea.
runs, they would go down to the next level. Now that's of course after we cycle it through once. So if you're in the top 8, you're not. If you lose, you're not going to play right away in the A. But and vice versa. So you'd cycle it through, and then the next month when we come back, the top 2 teams from the A would go play major. The bottom 2 teams in the major would go play A, and it gives everyone a chance. You know what I mean? So the cool thing is, if you win first or second in the A division, you go up. Your entry fee for the next time is basically will be paid for if you win the tournament. You know what I mean? So
shout out to Marty Ruvatuso for watching. He always kind of watches and comments, says we do a great job on the show here.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate you, Jimmy. That was a good show today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate your time, dude.
You too.
It's always fun, dude. And I know Sal had a lot of cool stuff. I think he hit some great points.
Yep.
So I'd love to watch back tonight and see just to kind of rehear what he said. Because you know how sometimes we're on this, we're always looking at what the next question's going to be, and you kind of miss what someone says.
Yep.
But, next week I'm excited too with Marty and Mark Holstein. I think it'd be awesome to hear from both of them just about their careers and kind of, maybe they'll give us a little insight about their speech.
Yeah, I would like that.
So
this is well done, Jim. Thanks for your time and thanks for the effort too. And
Donnie, join the Uncle Jimmy and Cousin Donnie page, Facebook and YouTube, my man. Get out there and share it, my man. I'll see you soon.
See you later.
Thank you, Donnie.
Bye now.